So we're going to bust 5 content myths today for large organizations, but I'm not only going to say what not to do, I'm going to give you 5 to-do things as well. One of the questions that I get asked by executive teams a lot is, should you follow trends to get more traction on social media? And in general, and almost always, my answer is no. And there's a really simple reason for that. From my days of recording bands and getting them on radio and getting them noticed, the bands that followed trendy styles always failed. They were never as big as the original artist, and then they were stuck into this kind of diminishing niche. And, even for individual folks that are trying to create a business on social media, I think following trends is just not a smart way to do it. The thing to do instead, and this is going to maybe sound a little bit trite, is to be yourself and cultivate your own style. But I don't mean this in the, be authentic and just talk into the camera kind of stuff. I don't mean that at all. I mean, actually think about and cultivate your own personal style and what you do, how you want your video to look, especially for a large organization. What existing branding is there? How do you extend and support branding that's already there for content that you're creating? A lot of people's philosophies and companies' philosophies is that they would rather buy video equipment than pay someone to make content. And, in a lot of ways, this can make some sense. But when you really think about it, I actually can't think of any skill on earth where this model works for a large corporation. Just because you can buy the tools your plumber has, for example, doesn't mean that you know building codes and have the experience to pull off a complicated job. Sure, I can change the faucet in my bathroom, but I can't do a rough-in for a commercial business. In the video content world, everybody has the skill and equipment to send a video singing happy birthday to their mom, but it's a specialized skill to create the look and feel of a large organization's brand. After some time of working with an organization, inevitably this subject comes up, that repeating yourself is bad. When I'm suggesting content for organizations, the feedback that I get often is, well, we've already covered this topic. Why are you suggesting that again? This is actually probably one of the number one biggest hurdles that I see in large organizations for consistent and content over time. People think, well, I said it once, so that must mean I don't need to say it again. But the opposite is true. You need to repeat it again and again and again. You do need to find different ways to say the same thing, and that's actually easier than you think. The way I encourage people to look at it is that, video 1 is your introduction to your product or service. And video 2 might be an in-depth look at the features of this product or service. And video 3 could be something like an in-depth look at the problems that it solves for customers. And video 4 can be, all what your customers have to say about it. Let's say now video 5, 6, and 7 are an even more in-depth look at each specific feature and why it's important, and so on and so on. You can really make a branch of videos about one particular product or service, and it's important to do that. Don't be afraid to get hyper-focused on the minutia of whatever you need to show your customer. Customers often spend hours watching you to build trust. How many times have you watched 10 videos on the exact same topic, a piece of gear or a skill that you want to learn? Sometimes you can even watch the same video title from 2 different creators to see what different people have to say. People want to consume a lot of content, and having a lot there that is fairly repetitive, but about the exact same thing, it's not only fine, I encourage it. The next one is that social media really should be raw and real, like picking up your smartphone and talking. This can be true when you want to stay in touch with family and friends, but for a large organization, no way. I mean, maybe if you're very, very charismatic, there's a myth in the music recording industry that if you want to sell a song, that the production doesn't matter. It's just the song, because the musicians will be able to hear through the production. That is a total myth. The people that really do well as songwriters pay for really good production, just as good as what you'll hear on radio, in fact. A lot of time and money is spent on that production because it supports the message of the song. The same thing is true for social media. Having a great message that you record on your iPhone, okay, great. But having a high enough production value that isn't distracting from the message and reflects the value that your brand has and the quality of your product. If you're selling something that is, a rather high-end product or service, rough and tumble iPhone footage to sell that, probably not the best way to go. Instead, hire somebody. I hear this a lot, is just press record and start talking. For a large company or corporation, I can't think of worse advice. Could you imagine saying to a staff member, oh, you're going to give this keynote, but don't worry about preparing, just go and talk off the cuff. There would be very few situations that would actually work. And all the prep that you would do to give a keynote or a major sales presentation is exactly what you need to do for your content. It is very different than giving a keynote or even presenting to any type of audience. Video is just its own thing that you have to get good at. Just pressing record can be great for rehearsing, but not for major communications and advertising for your company. Not for a large organization. That's just bad advice.